But we start with breaking news. In just a few hours, we'll see the man believed to be the Golden State Killer in court for the first time. Police say Joseph DeAngelo is linked to a string of murders and rapes back in the 70s and 80s. Police were able to zero in on him using a genealogy website. They compared DNA from the crime scenes and with samples from a genealogy service. Joining me now to talk about the court appearance and more, defense attorney and former prosecutor Vinoo Varghese. Welcome, Vinoo.
Hello.
Hello. Let's start off with this guy's appearance in court. What will go down today? Well,
they're going to formally charge him. They're going to list the charges. His lawyers will get a copy of a criminal complaint, and then they will set they'll set a bail amount. I presume it's going to be astronomically high, or he's going to be remanded, meaning held without bail. And then from there, his lawyers will make certain arguments for his release, but those are not going to be successful.
He's going to face probably a litany of criminal counts, but as I understand, he's suspected in dozens of rapes, and some of them, I mean, I guess some of those crimes have passed the statute of limitations, and he can't be charged with those, correct?
Right, right. But there's never a statute of limitations on murder. So it'll be interesting to see, what evidence. The biggest thing in this case is going to be the discovery process. We're going to learn how the government, how the prosecutors and law enforcement made a match here. I mean, here's one of the things that people need to be very careful about is a rush to judgment. DNA science is not infallible. There are issues there can be issues with how it's collected. There have been, even in Sacramento itself, there was a scandal about a decade ago with an examiner who submitted a DNA sample that didn't meet minimum standards. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they tracked him, and particularly with the genealogy issue. It's a very different thing in that situation because it can actually lead to a lot of false positives because you're not doing an exact match, trying to match people with similar features.
And frankly, prosecutors aren't talking much about how that DNA, where that DNA sample came from, how they matched the DNA found at this guy's home. They're not saying much about what they found inside of his house because I know they're hoping to find, trophies that he took from his victims, but we haven't heard yet if they've done that.
Right, and as I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how they got to this position. There was a case in New Orleans a few years ago about a filmmaker, Michael Usry, who was suspected. It basically was investigated in the same way because there was a potential match with his father's DNA, who had submitted it as part of a program with his church, and so that eventually led to the police tracking him down and investigating him. But ultimately, he was cleared. So it'll be very interesting to see. The process is going to be critical here, and at what steps they took, and whether whether they can actually match up the DNA that they're going to take from him with the DNA from decades ago.
Vinoo Varghese, thank you for your insight. I appreciate it. HLN profiled a series of horrific crimes in an extraordinary 5-part series, Unmasking a Killer. All 5 episodes will air tomorrow starting at noon Eastern.